Welcome everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and this time we are talking about the power of Nintendo Switch 2. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because over the weekend I noticed a lot of conversation on social media, specifically Twitter, and a lot of people complaining or having debates about the power of Switch 2 and it being around the level of a PlayStation 4. And so a lot of this conversation left me scratching my head because my understanding of this is very different. And it's not so much that there isn't reason to compare it to PS4, but the overall picture tells us a lot more, and even if it was just that, that's still not that bad of a thing. And so I would like to clarify what we actually understand from the most reliable info that's out currently on what the Switch 2 power will be, and why it's a pretty good thing and probably better than what a lot of people on Twitter seem to think. But before going forward, I would like to point out a couple things. One, for the second time in the last couple weeks, the internet in my neighborhood has been taken down. I don't know what's going on with this place, but it seems to keep happening, and it's frustrating, but I still plan on getting this video out today. So I'm gonna have to do some special maneuverings, and that's going to be challenging, so if the editing in this video appears to be a bit simpler, that is why. Please keep that in mind, I appreciate it. And I would also like to remind you that we are still aiming to reach 50,000 subscribers, so if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, leaving a like is also super helpful, and enjoy the ride as we attempt to talk about Nintendo every day, even when the internet seems to go out every couple weeks. So the first thing I would like to speak on here is that until the Nintendo Switch 2 does come out, and we have it in our hands, and we dig into that, we probably will not know just how powerful this system will be. Actually, thinking more on it, when prior Nintendo systems have come out, there still has been a lot of debate about just how powerful these systems were months or even years later. And the reason for this is because usually Nintendo doesn't provide full-on specs, and then when people do dig into the system and look into what it may be, there's still room for interpretation, or there are still things that people don't quite understand. But for the most part, we usually get a pretty good picture of just how good the system will be. And so when it comes to what we're expecting for Switch 2, from what we know so far, it's interesting. But there's definitely things going around right now that I understand can muddy up the waters. So for example, there's this Taiwanese economic forum that put out an article last week, and they suggested some specs that don't fall in line at all with what most insiders are expecting. And looking closer into that article, it appears to be just speculation, and not even greatly informed speculation. It's speaking on rumors, and those rumors appear to be outdated rumors, if even that. And so, it's pretty much a toss-out. And I go into more detail on this in a video that I made last week, so if you're curious on this article, you can check that video out after this one. But in response to that article, a pretty reliable place in the universe of Nintendo put out what we understand currently for the Switch 2 specs. The editor-in-chief, Necrofelipe, put out this article and pulled together information that he's heard from others and most recent dev kits and other reliable places and what we factually know from the Nvidia leaks. And there's a pretty good list of specs here that I think give us a decent understanding. Now, there's a number of things here that still haven't truly clarified, and this is all subject to change. But this is our best look into what the Switch 2 will be. And so there's a part of the article where they mention a range of teraflops when it comes to both portable and docked performance. Now, something else to understand is that while we're going to talk about teraflops here, and that is a metric to measure the potential graphical fidelity a system can put out, it's not the be-all end-all. There are a lot of other variables here, but it does give us somewhat of an understanding. And so the range we have here is 3.5 to 4.5 teraflops in docked mode, and 1.7 to 2 teraflops in portable mode. So for those that don't understand, Nintendo Switch is a hybrid system, and we are expecting Nintendo Switch 2 to also be a hybrid system. And what that means is that you can take the system portably, play it like a handheld, but you can also take it back home, put it into the dock, and play it like a console. And in portable mode, they have to account for power consumption, how quickly the battery is used. And so the system will actually be clocked at lower speeds for this reason. And yes, what this means is that the overall graphical ability of the system portably is subdued, not as good. But this doesn't matter as much because when you're looking at a smaller screen, you don't need as much detail. So typically we see lower resolutions, for example. And then when you go into docked mode, because it's plugged into an external power source, they don't have to worry about power consumption or the drainage of the battery, so they can clock up the system and perform closer to its greatest capabilities. In other words, the graphics are better when you're playing on the big screen TV. And so these teraflops are several times more powerful than a Nintendo Switch. And that alone should be exciting. So from that perspective, this system is going to be leaps and bounds more powerful than the base Switch, and that's going to make a big difference. But perhaps the reason why a lot of people are complaining on Twitter is that these teraflops put the Switch 2 in the range of PlayStation 4, well, specifically portable performance. So to reiterate, the portable performance of Switch 2, the range we have right now is 1.7 to 2 teraflops, and interestingly, PlayStation 4 is at 1.84 teraflops. So PS4 falls in that range for what we're expecting of the Switch 2 in portable mode when its speeds have been subdued because they are accounting for power consumption. And I'll also reiterate, for docked mode, we have 3.5 to 4.5 teraflops, and PS4 Pro is at 4.2. So the Pro version of PlayStation 4, which is greatly enhanced, that has 4K capabilities, among other things, falls in the range for Switch 2 teraflops. Now, there's a lot of other variables here, and so I'm not trying to say that Switch 2 is going to be exactly as powerful as a PS4 Pro, or that in portable mode it will be exactly as powerful as a PS4. Personally, I think it's safer to err on the lower side of these ranges. So, if that's the case, then the teraflops would be less than PS4 and less than PS4 Pro, but still in the ballpark. But as I said before, the teraflops don't tell us the full picture, especially when we only have a range here and there's a lot of other details that we don't understand. But something that we do understand is that the Switch 2 will very, very likely have DLSS features, deep learning super sampling, this AI technology that NVIDIA has been pioneering for the last few years, and NVIDIA is partnered with Nintendo. And so they are extremely likely to be behind what the Switch 2 will be from a hardware perspective. And so the expectation is Switch 2 will have DLSS features, and there's a variety of them. You have DLSS 2.0, which includes super resolution and deep learning anti-aliasing. Essentially, through the power of AI, games will run at higher resolutions and look smoother, with less required power, and this also tends to benefit performance as well, frame rates. But then DLSS 3 incorporates frame generation, which also improves frame rate. And then DLSS 3.5 has ray reconstruction, which basically allows for an improved version of ray tracing. And if you don't understand what ray tracing is, it's a simulation for real-world lighting effects. In more simpler terms, really nice, cool lighting. And this helps games to look a lot better. And so that's a very basic rundown of DLSS features. And so a lot of these features can be in Switch 2. We understand the super resolution and the deep learning anti-aliasing, and the ray reconstruction will likely be there. There's been some hesitancy to expect frame generation, but if there is ray reconstruction, a newer version of DLSS, then in theory frame generation could be incorporated, but there could be other restraints that don't allow for that, and regardless, that may not even be necessary. But the overall point here is that with this technology, you can improve resolution, anti-aliasing, which helps smooth things out, performance, regardless of frame generation or not, so there will still likely be improved frame rate, and ray reconstruction, which will add some really nice lighting effects. All these things can be added to the Switch 2 picture. And so, when you factor this in, along with the other just generalized improvements with technology, where we have a better bang for our buck, the newer tech is, If Switch 2 has teraflops that are in the range of PS4 portably and PS4 Pro and docked, when you count for all these extra things, the overall visual impact, as I like to refer to, what we actually see on screen, what we get to enjoy and experience, will be even better. And so when I see this conversation of Switch 2 being PS4 level, it's very misleading, I think. But hypothetically speaking, let's say the Switch 2 was the level of a PS4 in portable mode. That still seems pretty good to me. Someone who predominantly plays on Nintendo, I do occasionally play things on PC and on PlayStation, but 85–90ish% of the time I'm playing on my Switch. And so to me, that would still be a sizable jump. Games will look better, and Nintendo making games with that powerful of a system, what they can do with their games on weak hardware has always been extraordinary. So to have something that's several times more powerful, they're going to be able to do some incredible things. But as I said earlier, my understanding is that it's going to be even better than that, especially in docked mode. And so I have some pretty good optimism here for what the Switch 2 is going to be able to do. And ultimately, what I've been arguing is that I think the Switch 2, overall, not in terms of raw power, but the end result, the visual impact, the performance will be comparable to an Xbox Series S. That's my prediction. I don't know. But I think that would be really good. And the reason why, beyond just Nintendo games looking insanely good, is that this would put the Switch 2 in the range of having third-party games. Because third-party games, the big AAA multi-platform games, they're being made for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series. And what some people may be confused on is that Xbox Series is two different systems. You have the Xbox Series X, the one that compares favorably to the PS5 in terms of specs, and then the Series S that's not meant to be a 4K console, but still has improved resolutions over the prior gen and plays current gen games. In other words, in docked mode, I think Switch 2 will look pretty good on modern televisions. We'll have games that look about as good as Xbox Series S, if not perhaps even surpassing that thanks to DLSS, at least from a resolution perspective. And in portable mode, it'll look better than a PS4 thanks to DLSS and just other modern features. And I think that's going to be a really good thing. Honestly, I'm just not sure why anyone would expect anything else from a portable device that is trying to be marketed at a mainstream price point. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andre's Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.